Action Team 15 recently ran a story about the emerald ash borer and ash trees in the community. The city is still continuing to remove ash trees from the public properties, and now the city would like to get a message out about removal of ash trees from private properties.
The city of Cedar Falls is continuing the fight with the emerald ash borer, the dime-sized beetle that has infected the ash tree.
So the insect goes in behind the bark in the cambium layer and lays the egg in there, and then it turns into a larva, which the larva feeds on the layer of the tree that brings nutrients up to the tree, which is why the tree dies from the top down, which I'm sure is very obvious when you're especially about a year ago. The tops of the trees were dead and they're suckering at the bottom, still trying to survive. But now we're getting to the point of a lot of them where they're just completely, foliage is gone, which that larva just cuts off that whole layer underneath the bark that brings up the nutrients.
The city started removing actually healthy ash trees a few years ago with the anticipation that as over time the trees would become hazardous and could pose a problem to dropping limbs on public and private property. So we started removing trees about 3 or 4 years ago. We've removed just under around 2,000 right now, which we think we're probably have about 3 years left to go to remove all the trees on public property.
In the past few months, the city has been conducting surveys around the community to identify trees that are in decline on public and private property that may become a hazard in the near future.
It's not only the public trees that have to be removed, but there's also hazardous trees on private property. Most of the trees we're seeing right now that are declining are ash trees, but there are other dead and declining trees on private property that are becoming hazardous too. And one of the reasons they do need to be removed, or a couple of reasons. One, they do become a hazard to your private property and also public property. But the city does have an ordinance that indicates that dangerous and hazardous trees do need to be removed by private property owners as well.
A recent inventory shows that there are more than 2,300 ash trees on private property, and of those, 450 have been marked as high hazard, and 450 has been marked as moderate hazard trees.
The different stages are moderate hazard, and those are what we consider probably to get to a hazardous level within a year or two. So it would be a good idea to maybe start looking at having those removed too. But the high hazard trees are the ones that really don't have any sort of green on them anymore. You can see the bark flaking off. You can also see some of the cracking in the limbs. We believe that those probably should be removed sooner rather than later, and that we would encourage private property owners to contact their tree removal company to get that taken care of.
If you think your tree is in a declining state, then you'll want to contact a local nursery or tree removal company so they can evaluate the health of your tree. If your tree falls under the moderate or high hazard category, you will be receiving a letter from the city in the late fall.
The letters that will be sent out will include information from the inventory that we have noticed high hazard trees and moderate hazard trees on your property. That there will be a time frame when the expectation is that the tree will be removed, and the city will check back at that time. There are, at this point, we have looked at the inventory right now, and on private property we've earmarked probably 450 high hazard trees and about another 450 moderate hazard trees. So there are a number of trees in the community, private property, that do need to be removed. There's not an infinite number of people that can do that work, so it's going to take a little bit of coordination between a private property owner and the tree removal company. And another reason that we want to send this information out too is it can be expensive to remove a tree. A small tree might be able to be taken care of by the private property owner or a small contractor, but the large trees may get into several $1,000s if they have to use a crane to remove the tree. So it's important that the property owners realize that and can budget accordingly.
Again, the city is unable to provide tree removal for private property owners. If you have questions concerning trees on your property, please seek help from a tree removal professional.